Welcome back folks, my name's Shane. In today's video we're checking out an APS-C lens for the Sony E Mount. This is the TTArtisan 10mm f2 prime lens. This is a 100% manual experience lens, so if you like to adjust your aperture and focus manually, you'll get a kick out of this. Now this is a budget lens and I'll link down to the price in the description, or I'll put the price down there. It changes over time, so I always like to just do that in the description. A massive thank you to TTArtisan for sending this out. What I'm going to do in this particular video is try to shoot as much of this video as possible using wide angle lenses only, just to mix things up. This is a 10mm f2, so it works out to about a 15mm field of view full frame equivalent on an APS-C body. So we're gonna get stuck into this. I'm shooting right now with an 18mm equivalent on my GH5 Mark II and the 9mm f1.7. So we're gonna just have some fun with some wide angle lenses today. It's a beautiful day outside. Let's get into it. Well, the version of this lens I have is for the Sony E Mount. You can get it for micro 4/3, the X mount, the Z mount, and the Canon RF mount, making it a great choice if you're looking for a super wide angled field of view. I love the fact that TTArtisan make this for a range of different lens mounts and camera systems. Let's kick things off with a field of view test. This is the 15mm f1.4 Sony at f1.4, giving us that 22.5mm field of view. Let's switch it over. And now we're over to the TTArtisan 10mm f2 lens. So this is that 15mm full frame equivalent field of view, and I can see so much more on either side of this particular shot than I could with this lens. Let's switch it back. And back to the Sony G 15mm f1.4, which is a great lens, especially if you need autofocus. But this particular lens definitely gives me a much wider field of view. Let's switch it back. And back to the TTArtisan 10mm f2. Let us know what you think of the field of view, the colors, the contrast, all that kind of stuff. The light remains the same between each of these lens swaps. First up, let's cover everything we get in the box. Oh yeah. All right, we get our user manual, warranty card, and this tasty little treat. I actually don't eat this. We get a secondary rubberized lens hood, and here's the lens itself. So the build quality on this is phenomenal. We get hard stops on either side of the focus ring, and the aperture ring clicks in beautifully all the way from f2 down to f16. It feels quite weighty in the hand as well, and I'll put the weight on screen. While we do get this rubberized lens hood, we also get this metal one right here as well, which is awesome. So to take this off, you unscrew it this way. Now just note, if you want to use any type of ND filter or polarizer, you need to have this lens hood attached, because the threading's actually on this metal part here. You can of course take this off, and then you can use this rubberized lens hood like that. You basically have two different options you can choose from. We also get a rear lens hood as well, and that's how that looks on the back. All right, let's do a quick vlogging test using the Sony FX30 with active steady shot on, using this 10mm f2 lens at f2, and I can see I'm getting some really nice subject separation back here. Now I'm not sure if this is too wide where I'm going to be getting warpy stuff in the corners. I'll talk about that when I get home, but basically looking at the footage on screen, it looks like a really usable field of view, and I'm in manual focus too, which is great. It means I can turn my head and the eye tracking is not going to lose me to the background. The only small downside, of course, to using a manual focus lens is if I spin the camera around and I want to pull focus, I have to do it manually. But as you can see, it's pretty easy on this lens. So yeah, for vlogging purposes, if you're happy just spinning the lens around a little bit till you see the focus peaking on your face, you can get these kind of results. If you're someone who wants to up your vlogging game and get more creative shots, that's where this super wide angle lens comes in. I'm at f5.6, so it doesn't really matter where I stand in the frame now. Basically everything's going to be in focus. I've got the camera on a little Manfrotto Pixie tripod capturing this view, and it's a really great way of making your vlogs a whole lot more interesting. Let's take a look at the sunburst effect. The only way I'm going to get this done today is by shooting through the trees here. So at f2, it doesn't look like much is happening. f2.8, there's a little bit. f4, a little bit more. f5.6 looks pretty great. This is f8, f11, and f16. At f16, the sunburst or starburst effect, at least on the LCD screen, looks pretty wild. I'll comment on this at the end of the video, but so far so good. It looks like it's doing a great job. This is a great lens for a gimbal. As you can see by this shot, there's none of that weird fisheye distortion. I dig it. There's lots of cool lines at this location, so I took a few photos. I stopped right down to get nearly everything in focus, and look how sharp this image is. It looks beautiful. really love this shot. I love the way the clouds look and the overall perspective. Just notice though there is a little bit of flaring. Here's another shot showcasing just how sharp this lens is. I think the focus point is just in the center of the timber here, but it looks really nice. If you're into shooting landscapes, this is a really great choice. TTArtisan have done a great job with this optically. Up next, we're going to take a photo at the minimum focusing distance, and this is how close you can get to a subject, right about here. This lens has a minimum focusing distance of 25 centimeters, which doesn't make it great for close-up photography. The great news is though, at f2 you can definitely blur the background out at that minimum focusing distance. One of my favorite features with this lens so far is that we get a rectilinear lens design, meaning we don't get any of that weird fisheye distortion look or any weird warping on the corners of frame. It just simply looks great for both video and photographic purposes. So if you plan on shooting landscapes or if you need a really great gimbal lens, this will definitely do the job. It's a really moody evening down here tonight at the lake. Some of these photos are gonna look awesome, but the unfortunate thing about a manual lens like this is I can't tell what aperture I shot the photos with after the fact, so the camera just doesn't burn it in, so I can't leave information on screen, but you can get a good sense of what this can do, shooting anywhere between f2.8 all the way down to about f11. All of these photos were taken with the video-centric Sony FX30. It's my only APS-C Sony camera, so that's what I used, and I love these results. Thanks to this super moody lighting, these have become some of my favorite landscape photos in a very long time. Let's wrap this video up. I'm gonna give you my final thoughts on the TTArtisan 10mm f2 lens. I'm really impressed with the optical performance of this lens and also just how it feels to use, especially with the manual focus ring. I have no complaints in terms of its build quality. I think the aperture ring feels great. The focus ring feels phenomenal, and it's nice and easy to pull focus from minimum to infinity focus. There's definitely some chromatic aberration when you're in high contrast situations, especially when filming something metallic out in the sun, but that's not unexpected. There's also a little bit of lens flaring that kind of adds character to the shot. I didn't find it problematic whatsoever, but it was definitely there, especially when shooting towards direct sunlight. Two other small things to take note of: if you're a Sony video shooter and you use Catalyst Browse, this lens on the camera body won't allow you to stabilize those clips within Catalyst Browse. You can open the files as per normal, but there's no stabilization icon, so just keep that in mind. Secondly, like I mentioned earlier, there won't be any aperture information stored on the image, so there's no way of finding that information out after the fact unless you take notes as you take photos. But if you don't really need that or you won't miss it, then I still think this is a really great buy. Shooting this entire episode on wide angle lenses has been so much fun. I've really enjoyed it, and after seeing all the footage from yesterday in editing, I'm like, man, this looks really cool. I'm definitely going to do it more often. And I also love the fact that I can stop these lenses down and get more in focus, but create a really great look. So yeah, I'm very impressed, not only with this lens, but just wide angle lenses in general. Again, they've become my favorite photography lens lately because I just love the perspective that you can get, especially without that fisheye look on the corners. So overall, man, these are so much fun. If you want to check this out, I'll link it down below, and a massive thank you to TTArtisan for sending this out for the review. Subscribe, click the bell, all that kind of stuff, and I will catch you soon. See ya.